It was the summer of 2024, and I woke up in a cold sweat. I was unemployed, art blocked, struggling with love, and I was 2 skips and a hop away from flat broke. So I did what anyone would do in my situation. Draw a comic every day for a whole year. Twice. Hello. Is the hat working? I don't know. We'll find out. Anyway, I have notes about this project. So inside this humongous Trader Joe's bag is a project that means a lot to me, and it's year 1 of my daily diary comic project. So here is some of it here. So I wouldn't ramble on too much. In my sketchbook, I made like a couple pages where I planned things that I would talk about. So we're going to start in on those questions. And the first one I planned is, why did I start this project to begin with? So I feel like a lot of artists hit this point. I kind of talked about it in the intro to this video, but I was unemployed and feeling kind of directionless. I feel like my value is very measured by how much art I'm doing. So I was feeling already shitty about not having a job and just shitty about not drawing as much as I wanted to. So birthed this comic project because I am a cartoonist and I was feeling really poopy about not making comics, so I started it. I just said one every day for a month is what I started at, and then month became, okay, why don't I just do the summer? And then summer became, well, okay, I've already done the summer, I should just do the whole year. That would be crazy, right? And then I did it. Yeah, so yeah, that's why I started. I just felt shitty. I should also add that I always really liked diary comics. I really like Hourly Comics Day, if you guys have ever heard of Hourly Comics Day. It's where you make a comic every hour for a day, and I did it once, and I was like, man, this rules. I should make more diary comics. And then I made a diary comic about when the eclipse happened in the Midwest, and I was like, okay, this is sick. Like, I really like this. So then it just became pretty easy to do that for a whole year. When I first started this project, I decided that I would take Sundays off just in case I got a day behind. I'd be able to have a catch-up day and things wouldn't kind of snowball, because I didn't want this to be a chore, you know. I wanted it to be helpful and something I pushed through, but I didn't want it to get so cumbersome that, you know, whatever. So I did take Sundays off for the first year. So when I did the second year, which I'll talk more about later, I decided to not take Sundays off, which actually became pretty easy, like, once you get the groove of things. But that Sunday was so necessary for the first year. And if you're going to do this, I highly recommend you do that. I did almost give up. It was towards the end of the first month. I was at my parents' house. I just kind of wanted to spend time with my parents. And it was like, I decided that if I did just one panel, that still counts as a comic. You know, like Family Circus is a famous one-panel comic. So I was like, you know, it doesn't have, like, I don't need to have a bunch of crazy rules. So I just need to go in with pen and have Sundays off. And I'm still gonna do it, you know, and that kind of is what saved me, because I kept things loosey-goosey enough. I didn't have enough crazy rules that it felt so much like a chore, and I was able to, you know, make it the project it ended up being. So let's talk about the technical way that I do it. It took a couple months to kind of get the way that I wanted to do it down. I needed to just go straight in with pen, don't overthink it. I ended up using, hold on, I'll show you really quick. These Artist Loft sketchbooks from Michaels for most of them, which is 8.5 by 11. But at the beginning, I was using these. I was just kind of doing them in my sketchbook, which ended up being kind of shitty because I had to tear all the pages out of my sketchbook. It didn't really work. So I had to put some of the bigger ones in here. And then from then on, I decided to just do 8.5 by 11 because that way I could put them in these binders instead, which was so much better. So, it took a little bit to get my footing. I even did a couple that were digital, but I did not like the way those looked. It just didn't feel natural for a diary, you know, like, I didn't enjoy it. It didn't look very good. At the beginning, like, when I didn't have very much structure, I thought, no rules, I need to put it just, like, in my sketchbook. And that worked for a little bit, but then I was like, nah, I trust myself now. Like, I could be habit forming. Like, I could use a certain different sketchbook. So that's what I did, and I will show you the pen that I use. Okay, this right here is my weapon of choice. This is a Kakuno Pilot pen with the refills. I can get these pretty cheap. Like, there's a store by here that sells them for like $5. You can get them even cheaper on Amazon, but I use this for just about every comic these days. When I run out of ink, I just put a new cartridge in. I had one for the first year that I used for most of these that I lost at some point. I've broken the nib of one of them, but this one has lasted quite a bit. Second up, I have another Pilot Kakuno, except this one has like a replacement, not a replacement. It has a special cartridge thing where you could put your own ink in it, but I could never seem to get it to work that well. Just clogs. But this is my Otho fountain pen. This one does have, I forget the freaking term. What is it called? I don't remember, but I'll probably put a picture of it. It like turns the ink in. You could put your own ink into it and use it like that. And this one works well. I will say that converter, that's the word. That converter works well. This one I couldn't get to work that well. So at the end of the day, though, sometimes I'm still even too lazy to like pull out all my ink. I just always get ink all over my hands, so I just prefer to use simple and easy. But the downside to that pen is when it prints, it has like a slight bleed out to it. And maybe that's due to the cheap paper I use, but when you print it, there is a little bit of like, it almost looks like static on the line, but it's not. It's just like where ink seeps out from the line. The Pilot Kakuno's ink is not solid black. Like, it is slightly gray. That doesn't really matter until you print it, but because these are diary comics, I still don't even want to put that much pressure on it to fix something like that. It would just be smarter for me to use pure black ink and continue to use this, but I just don't like the feel of this as much as I like the Pilot Kakuno, so just keep that in mind, that it's probably better to use a pure black dip pen if you could, but like I said, they're diary comics. This is not like fine art, so it doesn't matter. And then more on to the process of it. It's when I do them and where. This is kind of specific, but I honestly draw most of these in my bed. There's actually stains on my sheets where I will fall asleep holding the pen and they'll like soak into my mattress. But you know, I do some of them at like a desk sitting up, and those ones usually look a lot better than just lazily doing in my bed. But you know, you just kind of do them to get them done. Like, it's part of just pushing through. It doesn't have to be serious. I feel like that is the thesis of this book. It's never that serious. Just do it, you know? Most of the time, I will try and do them the night of. Like, it'll be the end of the day. I'll have stuff to talk about what happened that day. Or I'll just skip a day. So, like, I will draw what happened the day before, and then in vice versa, it just carries on itself. That way, it's like I have solid thoughts about how the day went. But some of them are more raw, and I never noticed this, but one of my editors did. The way that I switch past and present tense when I talk, you could definitely tell when I wrote it that day of versus the day after, because I'll say like, oh, I did this, from, oh, I'm doing this. Or, you know, some days I'll just be more chatty than other days, so it's all over the place how it actually goes. But I think that's more interesting than anything, because it's like a look into my brain of how that day actually went, or how it was going, and how much energy I actually had to give to it that day. Some days were really exciting, I just didn't have enough gusto in me to draw it, but oh well, that's okay. The next big topic I want to cover is my art growth because of this project. It is actually insane. If you look at the comics that I did at the beginning of the year, or like before I started this project versus after the first year, it is like crazy 180. And I would say that it happens the most in the backgrounds and how I place characters in the backgrounds, because I've always hated drawing full bodies in backgrounds, which is hard when you're a cartoonist because you have to do that stuff. But it never clicked with me very well just because I never practiced. But this project, I just did it. It was like I wanted to properly show a scene that I was in. So sometimes I would take photos and then draw myself in those scenes later, or I would try to just remember what the place looked like. But I just got 10 times better at communicating a scene and a character standing in it. And just overall confidence in my line increased. And I have this project to thank for it. And I also think that it helped my overall stamina. I was able to prove to myself that I could do a project. Like, I felt in a lot of ways that I was a quitter, that I would have a big project and I would start it and never finish it. For me, it's always been a huge roadblock to push through to the end. Like, I have a 3/4 problem where I will get most of the way through a project and then just give up. And it was really hard to battle through that for a long time. But then this project proved to me that I could do it. I could do it. If I could sit down and draw a comic every day it's really not that hard. I should be able to do it all the time. So I would say those were the two main huge artistic growths I got out of this was A, learning to trust myself that I could totally do it, and B, I would just actual technical skill. I also wanted to talk about personal growth because when I started this project, like I said, I was unemployed. I was not doing very well mentally. And this project covered a lot of ground for me personally. The first year felt like 10 billion years because of all the stuff that happened in it. And I have very bad object permanence, so if something did not just happen, it's not in my brain anymore. So I was able to look back at certain entries in this diary comic series and be like, oh yeah, I remember that. And I wouldn't have remembered certain events, well, if I hadn't drawn it afterwards. I mean, that's what I did in high school, is that I couldn't remember history shit, like years specifically. So I would draw out the events so that I would remember that I drew them. I just managed to somehow capture a huge year in my life. I was unemployed for a while. I finally got a job, my first full-time job, and I went through a huge breakup. And I got kind of sick towards the end, which would continue in year 2. But yeah, it was just like a bunch of crazy big events in my life, and I'm just glad that it's recorded. Like, it's just cool to look back and say, hey, what was I doing at this time last year? Totally different from what I'm doing now. And you remember the little mediocre tiny things that you do. And so that part of it is really, really cool. I wouldn't trade that for the world, honestly. I get to just have a little conversation with past me and see what she was doing. And I get to see, like, what meant something to her back then. That is freaking awesome. And my memories, I would like to say my memory's better now. It's not. But I can look back at the logs, you know? So I would highly recommend journaling if you've got memory issues like me. You also get to see trends in your life, like who is showing up frequently? What do you do all the time? For me, it was like disc golfing. And the fact that my shitty beater car would break down all the time, and I got to see the freaking timeline across the 2 years of all the times my car had issues and was in the shop. I also really love that my friends become like characters because they become like special cameos. I'm like, there's my friend Shannon. Like, she just pops up and it's great. It's like you get to treat your friends like little celebrities. That being said, when I did do the book at the end, when I made a book out of the first year, I did change everybody's names except for like one friend who was like, I'll sign a paper. I don't need it. I can go put me in. You can put my real name in. Like, okay, sure, whatever. Speaking of compiling the book, this is the compilation of the first year of Diary Comics. It took me a really freaking long time to edit this. That's why this is a, hey, I did a comic for 2 years instead of 1 year, because I put off making the video for 1 year so long that 2 years has lapsed. So this book, which is a collection of the first year, came out on the anniversary of me finishing the second year, which is crazy. It just took a lot longer than I thought. I had to read through all of the comics and kind of select ones that I thought would fit, and I decided to cap it at 200 pages, although at the end of the first year it was definitely over 400 pages. I forget the exact amount. I think it'd be 365, but I did like multiple pages for a day sometimes when I was feeling crazy and talkative. But anyway, this is the compiled book. I had to go through and select what passages I wanted, that felt kind of like made through lines, like storylines throughout the year. From there, I went and I had to clean them all up. So that's where you get that, I was talking about that pen bleeding a little bit. That's when it kind of shows, because when you have to threshold things in Photoshop, it just like, anyway, it accentuates it. But, so I did the cleanup, and then I added spot blacks, and then I also had to go through, and this took the longest, is I had to go through and take out all of my shitty handwriting and put in a font. And I made the font, so it still feels a little handwriting, but there were some pages that you just could not read. There was no way that I felt good about putting my handwriting in there, especially if, like, people who have hard time seeing. No, like, I wouldn't put anyone through that. So that's what took the longest, I would say, is doing all that. And then I just made a pretty cover, and then I printed it, and you can totally go get one if you want one. They're a little bit pricey because I had to fund the printing myself, but you know, printing in America is expensive. So hopefully you're interested enough in this project and you want to see what I was doing every day for a year. You could totally go buy that. Wow! Now we're going to talk about year 2, which is kind of exciting, you know, 2 years. I only missed 3 whole days this year It was the very first day, because I didn't know if I was going to do it again, but I knew the moment I made one comic that I was going to have to do a whole year, so I eventually did do that comic. I just missed one day. So I will never do that again for year 3, for the record. And then the other 2 days I missed is, like, I figured out I had a chronic illness about, like, halfway through this year. Maybe not even halfway. And I just got really sick, and I missed 2 days. See, if that were me now, I would make my ass go back and do at least one panel so I could say I did the whole year. But I didn't, so now I have to do year 3. Not that it's much of, like, torture to do. I actually really like doing this, so whatever. Year 2 was a lot smoother, I would say. Also a lot less impactful to my brain, because the first year I reread passages a lot. When I'd finish a month, I would go back and I would, like, read everything that I said. This second year, I didn't really do that. I think I did that once. I still have not gone back to read year 2. I don't really know what happened. I know I was really sick for a lot of it, so I didn't really want to reread that right away, but I'm sure I will, because I'm going to have to do a compilation of the second book, but I'm not starting editing on that just yet, because that was a chore. I knew from the beginning it was going to be a chore, but, you know, that's one of the most special parts. Year 2, I didn't go crazy with as many pages, like multiple page days, so it was less of a page count. Even though I did one every day, it was less of a page count as last year. I also, took off the hat in case it looked bad. I would only have it on for, like, most of the video and not all the videos, so we're hatless now, anyway. Not that that matters. But anyway, the habit was much more ingrained at this point. Like, I knew how to do it, so there's not, like, a bunch of different crazy sizes or mediums. I basically just stuck to the 8.5 by 11, those Artist Lost sketchbooks, and the Kakuno pen. So everything is pretty uniform this year compared to what it was last year, which is, I think, better in my opinion. It looks a lot less exciting, like these thick boys, there's only 3 of them versus, like, a bunch of different ones, but this technically looks thicker. It just feels less impactful than the first year. I guess I don't have much to say now for the second year. I haven't read it. Okay, my concluding statements now. If you want to do this, I would say you should. If you like drawing. I think that's my biggest caveat, is that I never want somebody to get into a project because they feel like they really, really have to do it. I would say do it if you enjoy it, you know? Like, if you like drawing a little diary comic, you like drawing yourself making funny faces and going through stuff, I would say do it. It was very therapeutic, both, like, for my art skill and for my mental health. It was great. I think it's important that you enjoy what you do. And it'll come through if you don't, you know? I just don't want you to get to a point where you're just missing so many days and you just feel really bad about yourself. Like, that is never anything that is productive, you know? It's important to have balance of, like, pushing yourself to get it done versus just guilting yourself for not doing it, you know? So I would have to say, if you like drawing, do it. And if you feel like you're more of a writer, then do a writing journal, do a diary. I feel like it's so valuable that you get to go back and just have a conversation with your past self, or just go and see what was so important to you back then. Do it. Like, it's so fun. And then you get to look at all the silly pictures you drew, and then you feel really proud, and then your art gets better because you draw every day, because that's crazy. Oh my god, if you do something every day, you get better at it. That's true. I'm proof of that. So, I would say, you know, keep it low stakes. If you want to do it every day, I would say take Sundays off first. There's no pressure to go crazy. Like, I know there's this huge, you don't feel true to yourself if you didn't really do a full year. I mean, I'm guilty of that. But really, if I didn't take those Sundays, I don't think I would have ever gotten the project done to begin with. And it's important to learn the habit first rather than, you know, marathon it. So, like, do a month if you want. Do just a week if you want. There's really no pressure at all. It's kind of what you want to do. If you want to go crazy and do 2 years, do it, because it is really freaking fun, and you just get to see all the stuff that you did. It's cool. And hey, it doesn't even have to be a comic that you do every day. If you just want to do an illustration, I have some friends that do that, and it's freaking awesome. I feel like I succeeded because I didn't put too much pressure on it. Like, some of the comics look like shit. That's fine. Sometimes it's only one panel, and that's fine. It's just, you know, the effort of showing up for yourself every day. That is so important. And there were so many times I wanted to give up, and I just thought, no, I owe it to future me, who would want to have this project all together, and to future me when I had energy again, you know? There was a lot of days that I felt no energy, but I did it anyway, and that is really important. But You know, you gotta find a balance. Like, if you really hate it and it's torture, don't do it, but you gotta also learn that sometimes, like, a little bit of torture is just, like, momentary pain, and then all of a sudden the next day you feel better, and then you want to do a whole comic. I also wanted to talk about the whole part of being a cartoonist, that you're never really satisfied with anything that you do. So you should just do it anyway, because you're never gonna be happy anyway with what you do. You might as well do something, you know? You don't want to beat yourself up so much and just hate your work so much that you end up with nothing, you know? Like, that's not what art's about, you know? Just show up for yourself, draw every day. I would recommend it. It's really fun if you love to draw. And then you just have, like, a nice collection of stuff. And then when I'm dead, somewhere down the line, someone's gonna be able to go through and be like, wow, her life is really recorded, and it is, so that's pretty cool, you know? I would say I'm a pretty insignificant person, you know, that's, like, kind of sad and depressing to say, but I live a very mundane life. Like, I don't even, like, go out and do a bunch of crazy stuff, but I wrote about it. I kind of sometimes say that I added significance to a very insignificant life, and that sounds really depressing, but to me it's not. Like, I know that I do mundane shit, and that is fine, but finding pleasure in the mundane has been one of the most enjoyable things about this. It's like having a day where we go grocery shopping and I just get to talk about the cashier that made puns. You know, you don't really usually think to make whole comics about that, but there it is. You know? And when I was really sick in the second year, it was cool to look back and see what I had done before that, what I was capable of doing during it, which wasn't a lot. And then, you know, as I started to get better, I was able to do more and more things. And it's so cool to look back and say, well, I did get better. Like, things do get better because look, I could see the physical timeline of things getting better and then getting worse and getting better. And that's just special to have. And to have it drawn too is really fun. It's just a bonus. But the same can be said about diaries. Like, it's just special. When I worked at Goodwill, I would take home people's, like, diaries that would get donated, and I would read them, and it is just so special to see into somebody's life. So I know when I'm dead, somebody's gonna be able to look at that shit, you know? And I also feel like it really helped with my personal growth, because things are not embarrassing when you realize you're such a small piece of the puzzle. Like, there are so many people in this world. Nobody cares if you do, like, if you, like, shit yourself once. Who cares? When you get old, you're gonna shit yourself all the time. Not that I shit myself this year, but that's just a metaphor. Like, do stupid things, you know? Just do it. Who cares? Nobody cares. There's panels where I draw myself with my boobies out, and at first I was, like, really shy about it, but then I'm like, who cares? I'm gonna die someday. Everybody has boobies, just draw your boobies. So yeah. That's my thesis statement, I guess. Life is really short. Who cares? Draw some pictures, get better at art, take breaks. I don't know. I guess see you guys next year for year 3. I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it every single day because I want to. And you know, that took me, by the way, that took me 2 whole years to work up to. So there's no rush. It's not a marathon. No, it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. There we go. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. Do hourly comic day to see if you even like it. But yeah. Do it because it's fun. Do it for the love of the game, guys. Bye.